First blood.
I got one.
Double kill. Ultra kill.
What?
Dominating.
No, this game is not Battlefield, it's not Roblox either. This is Battlebit Remastered, and it's absolutely exploded in popularity recently, with Steam charts showing an average of about 50,000 players at any given moment. That's more than the entire country of Liechtenstein. That's right, Liechtenstein! And in this video, we're going to be breaking down why this game is so popular, what makes it so good. Now, despite what the huge player numbers may infer, this game did not have a big production company. They didn't have a big budget behind it. It only had 3 developers, and those were Sergeant Okidoki, Velasquez, and the Liquid Horse. It's safe to say that these 3 developers are at the top of their game, considering they were able to take the magic of Battlefield, put it into Battlebit, and then release it for only $15 on Steam. $15 for a massive multiplayer shooter that has no microtransactions and has no intention on putting in microtransactions. That's amazing. That's one of the best deals on Steam right now. That's $15 for a brand new game, and at least as of right now, I do mean brand new. I mean, this game came out in early access on June 15th, 2023. Now, I know. You see early access, you see the words early access on Steam, and you get a little paranoid because it's basically a money pit at that point. So many games just never get released after thousands of dollars get put into them. But I do not see Battlebit Remastered suffering the same fate. Well, despite being in early access, Battlebit Remastered is pretty much good to go. I mean, despite a few minor bugs and some balance tweaking that could be done, everything just seems to work. I mean, in the words of Todd Howard, it just works. I mean, I get consistently high frame rates, I don't encounter hackers, I haven't had the game crash, and I find matches basically instantly. Compare that to just about any other modern shooter on the market, and Battlebit stomps it into the ground when it comes to working on release. The only real problem I've had to encounter has to do with hit registration. Sometimes my hits just simply won't register, but on the bright side, the game does give you a little heads up notification saying when that does happen, and it does happen fairly infrequently. It doesn't happen very often. Again, the game is in early access, but the fact that it runs as well as it does, it's incredible. Now, first things first, Battlebit Remastered does not have a single player. Sad face, I know, it sucks. But it has a huge multiplayer scene with the ability to have 64 player matches, 128 player matches, and even 254 player matches. That's right, 254 player matches. It is crazy. Depending on how many players you have in the game completely changes how the game actually feels. 32 versus 32, that's something that you'll want to play if you're into the older Battlefields like Battlefield 2 or Bad Company 2. Or if you're into Call of Duty, you'll like that game mode more. And 32 versus 32 also has access to the Rush game mode, which is not available for the other player count modes. Rush basically acts as Rush in Battlefield 3. It's pretty much the exact same game where one team's pushing across the map, planning objectives while the other team is defending. 64 versus 64, it's a bit more intense than 32 versus 32, and in my opinion, this is Battlebit at its absolute peak. This is something where if you want to be able to make a difference, you still can. There's still enough players to the point where individual skill does matter, but at the same time, it's very chaotic and there's a lot more vehicles and just a lot more going on in general than in 32 versus 32. Meanwhile, 127 versus 127 is completely overwhelming. Individual skill matters much, much less in this game mode. While 128 player and 64 player matches are pretty balanced for the most part, 254 player matches are basically a reenactment of World War I's warfare. You'll be rushing down bridges and buildings that don't even matter and just, it's like lambs to the slaughter. It is not for the faint of heart. And the actual capture point on 254 player matches, I mean, good luck even getting in there. You're probably going to get domed. Now, regardless of how many players are in each match, you'll be playing objective-based game modes. There are no straight-up deathmatch modes, but this is actually kind of a good thing because most of the action takes place around control points on the map, which keeps things a lot more, contained than if it was just 254 players running around like chickens with their heads cut off. By the way, depending on the game mode and how many players there are on the server, determines if there's vehicles or not and how many vehicles there are on the map. So the fact that you have straight infantry-based matches, and then you also have matches that include vehicles. It helps keep the game from being monotonous. It adds a lot of variety to each match. In general, each map in Battlebit Remastered is absolutely freaking huge. I mean, you got 254 players on each match. You gotta have some big maps. It will take you literally minutes to get from one end of one map to the other end, but despite the massive scale of the maps, this game really doesn't require a supercomputer to run at all. The game literally takes up 2 gigabytes of storage. That's nothing. And it requires the GeForce RTX 450 to run, which I found online for basically 20 bucks before on eBay. I wouldn't be surprised if a Texas Instruments calculator could run Battlebit Remastered at some point in the future. While you're capturing objectives on the map, the vast majority of your gameplay will be taking place on foot, taking out other infantry. But vehicles play a huge role in this game. There are Humvees, helicopters, tanks, and more. Each vehicle is good in their own way, with tanks and helicopters kind of reigning supreme. The helicopters are great for transferring big amounts of infantry from one side of the map to the other very quickly, while tanks are great at taking out cover and enemies, and also other vehicles as well. It's easy to sometimes get caught up in the combat of this game and ignore the vehicles, but usually whichever team utilizes the vehicles more effectively is the team that ends up winning the match. There's a large variety of vehicles to choose from, but there's also a large variety of classes to choose from. In this game, you've got the squad leader, you've got the assault, support, engineer, medic, and recon class, and each class has their own strengths and weaknesses. The assault class is the most basic class in the game. It's essentially the jack of all trades class. If you just want to shoot some bad guys, play assault. They do have some cool little benefits with them, such as the fact that they reload their weapons 25% faster, swap weapons 25% faster, and can aim down sight 20% quicker with short range sights compared to the other classes. And they also have a neat little sledgehammer that you can use to break down walls like Sledge in Rainbow Six Siege. If you like playing assault but you want a little more responsibility, why not try out the squad leader class? As the name would imply, they lead the squad, and they're able to lead the squad by pinging objectives and telling teammates what to do. And when teammates follow these objectives, they actually earn more XP, which encourages them to, actually do what you're telling them to. Following the squad leader, because it gives XP, leads to a surprising amount of team cohesion even in public matches within BattleBit. And the squad leader, if you're going to be playing him, you're going to be having the same exact weapons as Assault, which is why he's essentially Assault, just with more responsibility. Medic is arguably the strongest class in the entire game. They have access to more weapons than either Assault or the squad leader, with them having more close quarters options, and they're also able to, do medic things. They're able to bandage and heal people, and their bandaging is twice as fast as any other class, and they're also the only class in the game that can heal other people. So medics are absolutely invaluable to the team. You're not going to be winning a match without medics. Do you like the vehicular combat in this game? Well, you might like playing the engineer then. They have the largest arsenal in the entire game. They can choose light machine guns, they can choose DMRs, SMGs, assault rifles, basically anything you want, the engineer can have. And they're also outfitted with RPGs and a repair tool, which kind of makes them the master of vehicles. You're able to destroy vehicles and cover with the RPG, and then you're also able to repair vehicles. And even when there's no vehicles on the map, the engineer is still fantastic because they're able to take out cover from faraway places with their RPG. Support is low-key kind of a beast of a class. They seem kind of bad at first. This is only because the L86A1 machine gun that you start off with is really not that good. Once you get other machine guns such as the M249 Saw, that's when the real fun begins. The support is basically a heavy assault class where they have heavier armor than the assault class, heavier machine guns, and they can carry more grenades. Now that said, they have the extra armor, they have the extra grenades, but they also move slower. So really they should be used primarily for holding choke points and providing teammates with some ammunition because they have ammo boxes that they can put down as well. Finally, the last class you can play in Battlebit Remastered is the Recon class, who essentially acts as a sniper. He's outfitted with only long-range weapons such as the sniper rifle and the DMR, and he can just pop craniums from 300 meters away, making the other team very paranoid, allowing your team to push up more easily. Now, while the recon class is a bit hard to get used to when you're starting the game, once you do get used to him, he is very fun to play, and he's a huge help to your team. By the way, every class in this game is completely customizable. You can change the armor, you can change the weapons, and you can change the gadgets, which greatly impact how each class plays. For instance, with regards to armor, you can choose light armor that allows you to run very quickly, but you don't survive as many shots from the enemy, or you go with heavy armor that does basically the exact opposite, where you can tank more shots from the enemy, but you're much slower in comparison to the light armor. And the weapons you can choose from? There's actually already a very big variety in this game, even in early access. There's LMGs, sniper rifles, assault rifles, DMRs, and more. Each weapon has a ton of variation and their attachments. You can change everything from the camouflage to the barrel to the sights on the gun. You can give them flashlights. You know, you can do pretty much whatever you want and build your own dream gun in this game. Now, surprisingly, there are no shotguns in this game. I believe that's because of balancing issues they've had in the past, and it's still uncertain whether we'll ever see shotguns in this game. Personally, I would like to see them. I love shotguns. But if they disrupt the game flow, I'm totally fine with them not being in the game because the game flows excellently. The gadgets that each class can use vary widely in their use. Some are more straightforward, such as anti-personnel mines or claymores, where you basically just put them down, you wait a little bit, somebody steps on them, and kablooey, they're gone. They're gone. Other items, other gadgets, such as the grappling hook, they require a little bit more thought. Where they don't damage enemies directly, you're gonna have to do something like, you know, shoot it on top of a building, climb up the rope, and then get a height advantage. They require a little more brain use than just throwing down claymores. If I've learned anything since starting this game, is that gadgets are extremely important in the gameplay. Please take the time to learn each gadget in each class, because getting proficient with them will make you much better at the game and make it much more likely for you to start winning matches. Each class is important in this game, and because each class is important in Battlebit Remastered, that means that you're going to have to start working as a team. This is not a game where one player can basically carry the entire team. Like it or not, you're going to have to work together. And to that extent, communication is key. It is absolutely key in Battlebit, and people take the communication very seriously in Battlebit. I mean, you've got people that are crying and screaming after they get blown up by a grenade. You got them pining for their loved ones back home. You've got people yelling at teammates to get back on their feet and get back into the combat. You know, people basically LARP as actual Marines in the game, and it's hilarious. I can't tell you how many times I've nearly found myself crying with laughter from just random people playing the game. And when you die in the game, your mic audio goes out so everybody can hear what you're saying. What I have heard cannot be repeated in a YouTube video. Just use your imagination. Overall, I find the gunplay in Battlebit Remastered to be surprisingly good. I saw the game and I saw it looked like Roblox, and I'm like, oh, the shooting's probably tacked on or something. It probably doesn't feel that good. No, it feels great. There's solid sound design. There's a solid recoil feedback whenever you shoot. All the animations are smooth. They flow properly. Really, I could not be happier with the gunplay in this game. You'll probably never get bored too, considering how many attachments and how much variation there is with weapons. You'll constantly be unlocking new weapons, new barrels, new sights, new camouflages, and it'll make you want to keep playing the game even more. Every gun, for the most part, is quite strong in Battlebit. The time to kill, the TTK, is quite high. It's about the same level as Battlefield, so expect to be taken out pretty quickly, but also expect to take other people out very quickly as well. I mean, even the default pistols are more than capable of taking out enemies at close range. Now, while the guns are relatively balanced for the most part, the Chris Vector, that's the bad apple. The bad apple that spoils the bunch. That is a broken weapon, I gotta say, at least in its current state. But other than that, the gun balance is pretty good. And a little side note, as fun and as good as the weapons are to use, it doesn't matter if the server doesn't register your hits. I touched on this earlier, but sometimes the server just simply does not register your hits, and this is very infuriating when you lose a gunfight to something that was completely out of your control. But again, it is infrequent. It does not happen very often, so I don't think it's a very major issue. Again, it's not the biggest issue, but it should be solved sooner rather than later. Luckily, to complement the massive amount of weapons and customization in the game, there's also a pretty massive amount of maps to choose from. There's 19 in total, and this game is only in early access. I mean, 19 maps is more than a lot of multiplayer games get throughout their entire lifespan. Well, all of the maps are big. Some maps are just a lot bigger than others, and some vary quite a bit in their gameplay. Some will have you fighting in close quarters, more cities and towns and such, whereas other places will have you fighting, say, in the desert or the tundra, where it's much more open and there's not as much cover. Like I said, you'll be fighting from the desert to the Arctic to European cities to the American suburbs. You'll be fighting all around the world, and there's really a decent amount of variation in visuals considering how low poly this game really is. Each map you can play on can either be played during the daytime or the nighttime, and while most matches take place during the daytime, the nighttime matches do present unique challenges and gameplay. Nighttime in Battlebit is practically pitch black. You'll be having to use night vision goggles, flashlights, and flares to see anything, and while night vision goggles might seem like the obvious choice to use, they prevent you from using certain sights on your weapons, so flashlights and flares still have a use in this game. Personally, I prefer the standard basic daytime on the maps, but nighttime provides a huge change of pace and completely changes how the game plays, and it adds little extra variation every now and then. It can be fun to go back to. Well, I'm nearly running out of things to say about this game, but what I can say is that Battlebit Remastered is the most fun I've had online in quite a long time, and it's wild to think that this game was created by only 3 developers and it's only in early access on Steam as of right now. I cannot overstate this. This game is so much fun. I have not had this much fun in quite a long time. Just the amount of customization, the amount of weapons, the amount of maps, it's got everything, and it's only in early access, and it's only $15, so there's almost no excuse not to get this game. And it provides just such a great sandbox for casual players, while also having a high skill ceiling that will satisfy more competitive players that choose to check this game out. Well, that about does it here for me. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Hey, you, don't be a fool. Did you know that a salty Bendro will show that you are super cool? Hey, you, a like will show you rule. It's totally free and guarantee your help will be my fuel.